Hello viewers, my name is Kuldeep Singh. Welcome to my YouTube channel Technical Skills. Guys, if you are new to this channel, please subscribe this channel and please do hit the bell icon for latest updates. Hello viewers, if any one of you is interested in taking online or offline training, you can contact me on the number given on screen. You can call me or you can send me a WhatsApp message. Also, you can check my number in description of video. Thank you very much. Hello viewers, welcome again to this new PLC tutorial session. In this session, we will cover some TOF practice examples. Let's start with question number 8 that you can see on your screen. When first push button is pressed, output A gets on. 5 seconds later, output B gets on. When second push button is pressed, output AB gets off. And 6 seconds later, output C gets on. When third push button is pressed, output C gets off for 3 seconds and output AB gets on after 3 seconds. When stop push button is pressed, all outputs gets off after 4.5 seconds. You can understand that the first part till stop push button is pressed is of T on timer. So you have to do that with the help of T on timer. So let's start first part. So what you have to do is you just have to read the first line and implement it on the software. First line is when first push button is pressed, output A gets on. 5 seconds later, output B gets on. So let's start. First push button. Let's name it as first. So you have to take a latch with a binary bit. When first push button is pressed, output A gets on. So this is output A, and 5 seconds later output B gets on. So I'm taking a timer of 5 seconds. T on timer, 5 seconds. So it is 5 seconds later, so I am taking a done bit. So done bit will get this output on after 5 seconds, and this output is output B. So output B is getting on after 5 seconds. This much you know. So this is the first line. When first push button is pressed, output A gets on. 5 seconds later, output B gets on. Let's move to next line. When second push button is pressed, output A B gets off, and 6 seconds later, output C gets on. So I have to make another push button, that is the second push button. When second push button is pressed, output A B gets off. So both outputs A and B gets off on pressing second push button, and 6 seconds later, output C gets on. So let's make the second push button. So this is the second push button. Have to make a latch again. With a different binary bit. You cannot take the same binary bit again and again. So this is the second push button. When second push button is pressed, output AB gets off. So I can take NC of this second push button over here. So this will break the latch of this binary bit, and this binary bit will make this output A and B off. And 6 seconds later, so I have to take a timer. So I will take a timer for 6 seconds. Definitely a T on timer. T4 colon 1, and this is for 6 seconds. 6 seconds later, output C gets on. So I will take user done bit again, 1/dn, and output C gets on. Let's name it as C. So this is the second part. When first push button pressed, when second push button is pressed, output A B gets off, and 6 seconds later output C gets on. Let's move to the next line. When third push button is pressed, again another push button, output C gets off for 3 seconds and output A gets on after 3 seconds. So when we will press the third push button, output C gets off for 3 seconds and output A gets on after 3 seconds. So I will take another push button, third push button. I will have to take another latch, I have to take a timer of 3 seconds. T4 colon 2, 3 seconds. So I have to switch off this output C for 3 seconds. So what I will do, I will take a NC of TT bit of this timer. I will use here T4 colon 2/TT. So this will break this output C for 3 seconds because the TT will work for 3 seconds, and after 3 seconds output A and B gets on. So what can I do? I have to use a done bit over here. So I will use a done bit T4 colon 2/dn. So this done bit will give a supply to this A and B, and both will get on after 3 seconds. T4 colon 2/dn. Okay, now the last part. When stop push button is pressed, all outputs gets off after 4.5 seconds. So I have to take a stop push button, and stop push button will press, all output gets off after 4.5 seconds. So I will take a stop push button over here. You can use it here or here, anywhere. Okay, so I can, let's take here. I'm using a stop push button, TOF timer. Now T4 colon 3, and time base will be 0.01, 450, because duration is 4.5 seconds. So duration is equal to time base into preset, 450 into 0.01, the duration will be 4.5 seconds. So I have to use a stopwatch button. So you have to use a stopwatch button in every latch. So you have to use here also. I1 column 0.0, name it as stop. Okay, so you have to take another stop over here. Okay, so it should be having the same addressing, and the one stop you have to use here. So this is the stopwatch button. When stopwatch button is pressed, all outputs gets off after 4.5 seconds. So let's see the result. When first push button is pressed, output A gets on, and after 5 seconds output B gets on. Correct? Now when second push button is pressed, first you have to see that both are getting off or not. So I will minimize it a little bit so you can check, you can see. I think it's visible. So this is output C and these two are output A and B. When this second push button is pressed, output AB gets off and 6 seconds later output C gets on. Correct? When third push button is pressed, output C gets off for 3 seconds. You can check, and output AB gets on after 3 seconds. Correct? Now on pressing this stop push button, all outputs A, B and C gets off after 4.5 seconds. You can check. Now I'm pressing this stop push button. A, B, C. Oh, sorry, I haven't used any TOF bit. Sorry, my mistake. What I have to do is first I have to use I've taken the timer, but I haven't used this bit over anywhere. So what I have to do is we have to take a bit of TOF also. My mistake. I will take a TOF bit over here. T4 colon, I think it's 3 slash TT. Okay. Yes, it's 3. I have to take it here also. Yes, over here. Now another TT over here. You can copy this one over here. Now it's okay. Okay. Let's check again. First push button pressed, output A gets on. After 5 seconds, output B gets on. Okay, let's minimize it. Now, when second push button is pressed, output AB gets off, and 6 seconds later, output C gets on. Okay. Now, when third push button is pressed, output AB gets on after 3 seconds, output C gets on for 3 seconds. So all outputs gets on after 3 seconds basically. Okay. Now when stop push button is pressed, all outputs gets off after 4.5 seconds. You can check, all outputs are getting off after 4.5 seconds. So this is the solution for example number 8. Okay, you can also check it like this. It's not visible. You can see A gets on after 5 seconds, B gets on. Now when second push button is pressed, AB gets off and 6 seconds later output C gets on. Okay. Now when third push button is pressed, output C gets off and output E and B gets on after 3 seconds. When stop push button is pressed, little bit minimize. No. Okay, not an issue. You can see this timer is working. A, B and C all are on. After 4.5 seconds, all gets off. So this is the solution for example number 8. Let's move on to example number 9. So this is example number 9. When first push button is pressed, output A, B gets on. When second push button is pressed, output C, D gets on after 5 seconds. So you have to use timer in second push button but not in first push button. When stop push button is pressed, A, C gets off after 4.5 seconds and output B, D gets off after another 6.5 seconds. Okay. So let's move to the solution. Let's move to the software. Okay, let's go offline, take a new file, let it maximize a little bit. When first push button is pressed, first push button. You have to take a binary bit again. This is the procedure that you have to follow again and again. Output A, B gets on. So I'm not using timer, but still I'm using a binary bit. Why? Because both outputs are getting off at different interval. Because A and B both are not getting on off at same time. So I'm using a binary bit because both are getting off at different time. Okay. So I'm using this binary bit again. I'm using the output A and B. I'm separating the both output A and B. Okay, let's name it as A. I have to take another output, name it as B. Okay, now so this is the first part. Now the second part, when second push button is pressed, output CD gets on after 5 seconds. So I have to take a timer over here. So let's make a second push button. So this is the second push button, name it as 2. When second push button is pressed, output T4:1 0 and preset will be 5. After 5 seconds, output C and D gets on. So I will take a done bit over here, T4:0/dn, and I have to use two outputs C and D. Okay. Name it as C, and another output, name it as D. Okay. So when second push button is pressed, output C and D gets on after 5 seconds. Correct. When stop push button is pressed, output AC gets off after 4.5 seconds. You can see one is output from first push button, second output is from second push button. A and C gets off after 4.5 seconds. So I have to use a timer, TOF timer. Let's take here a timer for 4.5 seconds. TOF timer T4:1. Okay, for 4.5 seconds. So I will take a 0.01 time base and 450 is a preset. So after 4.5 seconds, output E and C are getting off. So I will use a TT over here. Okay, so I will use the TT T4:1/TT over here and over here because A and C are getting off. T4:1/TT. Also I have to take a stop push button. So I will take a stop push button. Over here and into this latch. Okay, now E and C gets off after 4.5 seconds and B and D gets off after another 6.5 seconds, and B and D are getting off after another 6.5 seconds. Means when these A and C gets off after another 6.5 seconds, B and D are getting off. So I can add an interval of 6.5 seconds to a timer. So I'm taking another TOF timer over here. TOF timer. It is T4:2 and interval will be 4.5 plus 6.5, that will be 11 seconds. So at last these two outputs are getting off after 11.5 seconds of pressing stop push button. Basically, this is the another way of telling a story. Okay, so I'm using a T of T4 to TT over here and here. T4 colon 2 slash T. Okay, now our answer is over. So let's run the program. So I think it's visible. When start push button, first push button is pressed, output AB gets on immediately. So correct. When second push button is pressed, C and D gets on after 5 seconds. Correct. Okay. When stop push button is pressed, so this is stop. I have to check for A and C. When stop push button pressed, output AC gets off after 4.5 seconds. You can see A and C gets off seconds, and B and D gets off after another 6.5 seconds. Okay, so well, if you want to see the timer, I can do it again. AB gets on immediately. Correct. Now, when second push button is pressed, C and D gets on after 5 seconds. When stop push button is pressed, see the timer is running. A and C gets off. Now after 11 seconds, B and D gets off. So this is the solution for example number 9. So now for this tutorial, this much I have to do. So just keep on practicing, keep learning. Thank you very much.
Hello viewers, if any one of you is interested in taking online or offline training, you can contact me on the number given on screen. You can call me or you can send me a WhatsApp message. Also you can check my number in description of video. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please subscribe this channel. Also hit the bell icon for latest updates. Please give this video thumbs up and do share it with your friends. Also please comment below how do you like this video. If you have any questions, please comment below. I will definitely answer your questions. Thank you very much.